Hidden strength. Admiral Elena Reyes stood at the viewport of Earth's orbital station, her dark eyes fixed on the gleaming alien vessel that hovered beyond the defensive perimeter. The ship was a masterpiece of engineering, a crystalline structure that seemed to bend light around it, creating prismatic patterns against the backdrop of stars. It belonged to the Ardani, the dominant species of the Galactic Federation, and they had arrived with news that would change humanity's future forever. "They're hailing us again," Lieutenant Jackson said from his communications console. "Fourth time in the hour." "Let them wait," Reyes replied, not bothering to hide the edge in her voice. "They've kept us waiting for 3 decades. They can spare a few minutes." The Ardani had been observing Earth since humanity's first tentative steps into the solar system. They had watched silently as humans established colonies on Mars and mining operations throughout the asteroid belt. Only when the first experimental faster-than-light drive was tested did they finally make contact. That was 6 months ago. Since then, Earth's governments had been locked in negotiations with the Federation, learning the harsh truth about their place in the galactic community. "Admiral," a voice called from behind her. "The Security Council is ready." Reyes nodded and turned away from the viewport. In the station's conference room, the holographic projections of Earth's most powerful leaders waited alongside the physical presence of her immediate staff. "The Ardani have presented their final terms," Reyes announced without preamble. "We've been classified as a Category 4 species. Juvenile, but potentially disruptive. They're offering us membership in the Federation, but with significant restrictions." "What kind of restrictions?" asked the Chinese premier, her hologram flickering slightly. "No independent colonization beyond our solar system. Limited access to Federation technology, strictly controlled, of course. No development of military vessels beyond defensive capabilities, and oversight committees on all our research facilities to ensure compliance." The room erupted in protests. The Brazilian president slammed his fist on a desk thousands of kilometers away, the impact somehow carrying through the holographic connection. "This is colonization all over again," he growled, just with prettier words. "What happens if we refuse?" asked the American president. Reyes took a deep breath. "They've been very clear about that. They'll establish a quarantine zone around our system. Any vessel attempting to leave will be disabled or destroyed. They've done it before to other troublesome species. And they have the capability to enforce these threats?" asked the Russian chancellor. "Without question," Reyes said. "Their technology is centuries beyond ours, at least what they've shown us. Their federation includes over 40 spacefaring species, with the Ardani and their close allies controlling the most advanced technology." The Indian Prime Minister, a woman known for her strategic mind, leaned forward. "Have they given us any reason to distrust them? Beyond these restrictions, I mean." Reyes exchanged a glance with Dr. Hiroshi Nakamura, Earth's lead xenobiologist, who had been studying the Ardani communications and behavior patterns. "They're not being truthful about something," Nakamura said quietly. "In my analysis of their communications, there are inconsistencies about how they treat other species. The Category 4 classification seems arbitrary, almost as if they're afraid of our potential rate of development." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. "How long do we have to decide?" asked the European Federation Chancellor. 24 hours, Reyes replied. "After that, they've stated they'll begin implementing the quarantine, regardless of our decision." "Then we accept their terms," the American president said, surprising everyone. "For now." "Sir?" Reyes questioned. "We accept their terms," he repeated, "and we learn everything we can about them. We smile and nod, and play the good, grateful, primitive species. And in the meantime," he looked around the virtual room, his expression hardening. "In the meantime, we prepare." 6 months later, Admiral Reyes found herself aboard the Ardani mothership, being given a courtesy tour by Ambassador Thelia, an Ardani female whose translucent skin revealed the pulsing of multiple hearts beneath. "You see, Admiral," Thelia was saying, her voice melodious through the translation device. The Federation has existed for over 15,000 years. Species rise and fall, but our structure endures. Your kind will adapt to your place within it. Reyes forced herself to maintain a pleasant expression. We're grateful for your guidance, Ambassador. Humanity has much to learn. Indeed. Thelia's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a gesture Reyes had come to recognize as condescension. Your technological progress is impressive for such a young species, but you lack perspective. The restrictions we've placed on you are for your own protection, as much as for the stability of the Federation. They passed through a corridor lined with displays showing various Federation worlds. Reyes noted that the images all showed peaceful, idyllic scenes, carefully curated to present a perfect picture of harmony. And these Category 1 species, Reyes asked, gesturing to images of beings with architecture that seemed to defy physics. How long did it take them to earn that classification? The Mavorians? Nearly 8,000 years from their first interplanetary flight, Thelia said with what passed for a smile. Patience is a virtue all successful species must learn. 8,000 years of restrictions and oversight. Reyes felt her blood pressure rising, but kept her voice level. Fascinating. And have any species ever accelerated through these categories? Something flickered across Thelia's features, too quick to interpret. Rarely. The development of sentient species follows predictable patterns. Deviation is uncommon. Later that day, back on Earth's orbital station, Reyes met with a small group in a room swept for surveillance devices multiple times daily. They're lying about something, she told the assembled leaders. The Federation isn't the benevolent guiding hand they pretend to be. And these categories aren't based solely on technological development. They're based on compliance. Dr. Nakamura nodded, his fingers flying over a tablet as he pulled up data. I've analyzed communications from 12 Federation species we've had contact with. The language patterns suggest fear, not of us, but of the Ardani. The so-called Category 2 and 3 species behave more like vassals than partners. What about the other restricted species? Asked General Williams of the newly formed Unified Earth Defense Force. Any potential allies? One possibility, Reyes said. The Navarans. They've been stuck at Category 3 for over 2,000 years, despite clearly having the scientific capability for more advanced technology. Their representative approached me privately after the last Federation Council meeting. Can they be trusted? Williams asked. About as much as anyone else in this situation, Reyes replied. But they offered something valuable. Information about how the Ardani enforce their restrictions. Apparently, they use automated monitoring systems rather than constant physical presence. Systems that can be fooled. The American president's hologram appeared, joining the meeting late. Tell them what you found at Ganymede, Admiral. Reyes brought up a new set of images, charts and scans of Jupiter's moon. The Ardani monitoring system doesn't extend effectively past Mars. They're focusing their surveillance on Earth and immediate space, neglecting the outer system. And Ganymede has interesting properties that seem to naturally disrupt their scanning technology. Perfect for Project Stardust, Williams said with a grim smile. The president nodded. Begin immediate resource allocation. Every nation contributes. We'll comply with their restrictions officially, but unofficially. He looked around the room. Unofficially, we prepare for the day when compliance is no longer an option. 3 years passed. On the surface, humanity embraced its role in the Federation. Earth's major cities hosted Federation embassies. Humans learned about galactic culture, trade, and politics, always under the watchful eyes of Ardani observers. The restrictions remained in place, with regular inspections of Earth's scientific facilities and shipyards. What the Ardani didn't see was happening beneath the icy crust of Ganymede, in the shadows of Neptune's rings, and in hidden facilities throughout the asteroid belt. Project Stardust had grown from a desperate contingency plan into humanity's greatest achievement. Dr. Eliza Chen, formerly one of Earth's most public quantum physicists, had officially retired 2 years ago to pursue personal interests. In reality, She had been relocated to Ganymede, where she now stood before a viewport looking at humanity's secret fleet. "How many now?" asked Admiral Reyes, who had come to inspect progress. 57 completed vessels," Chen replied. "Another 31 in final assembly. The Nevaran stealth technology has been integrated into all of them, along with our own modifications. As far as the Ardani know, we're still struggling to maintain our outdated fusion drives." Reyes gazed at the sleek ships. Unlike the bulky, utilitarian vessels that humans officially produced under Federation oversight, these were elegant and deadly, the culmination of human ingenuity freed from artificial constraints. "And the drive system," Chen smiled. "We've surpassed the initial estimates. The quantum-fold drive doesn't just match Federation technology, it exceeds it. We can make precision jumps that their navigation systems can't predict or track. The Nevarans were right about the theoretical principles, but our implementation is uniquely human." "Weapons?" Reyes asked. "See for yourself." Chen brought up a holographic display showing test results from the dark side of Neptune. A targeted asteroid disintegrated under a concentrated beam of energy that seemed to distort space itself around the impact point. We're calling it the Excalibur system. It's based on creating a momentary pocket of altered physics, essentially changing the rules of reality in a localized area. Reyes watched the recording twice. The Ardani representatives always said humans think differently than other species. They meant it as a criticism, that we're unpredictable, disruptive. They weren't wrong, Chen said with a hint of pride. We just proved that different isn't inferior. Their conversation was interrupted by an urgent communication. General Williams' face appeared on the secure channel, his expression grim. "Admiral, we have a situation. The Ardani have accused us of violating the technology restrictions. They're demanding access to all research facilities, including those in the outer system." Reyes felt a chill. On what grounds? They claim to have detected unusual energy signatures near Jupiter. Their ambassador has threatened to revoke our Federation membership and implement a full quarantine. How long do we have? They're sending an inspection fleet, arrival in 72 hours. Chen and Reyes exchanged looks. Project Stardust is operational, Chen said quietly. Not at full capacity, but operational. Reyes took a deep breath. 3 years of preparation, but they had planned for at least 5. They were being forced to show their hand early. "Inform the Security Council," she told Williams. Tell them it's time to stop pretending." As the communication ended, Reyes turned back to the viewport, watching the technicians working on the secret fleet, humanity's hidden strength and greatest gamble. "They think they know us," she said softly. "They have no idea what humans are capable of when cornered." The next day, as the Ardani inspection fleet approached Jupiter, the Federation ambassador delivered what was essentially an ultimatum to Earth's United Council. "Your deception cannot be tolerated," Ambassador Thelia stated, her normally melodious voice hardened with authority. "The Federation has been generous with your species, but there are limits to our patience. Submit to full inspection and technological reduction, or face isolation." Then came the news that changed everything. A Federation military force had entered the human colony on Europa, citing security concerns. Initial reports indicated they were forcibly relocating human colonists. The time for waiting was over. Unveiling the storm. The Ardani inspection fleet approached Jupiter with confidence bordering on arrogance. 6 warships escorted the main inspection vessel, a show of force meant to intimidate the primitive humans who had dared to violate Federation protocols. Commander Zalek stood on the bridge of the lead warship, his 4 eyes fixed on the gas giant and its moons, particularly Europa, where a Federation peacekeeping force was already establishing control over the human colony. "Status of the human defensive fleet?" he asked his tactical officer. 8 vessels detected, Commander. All remaining near Mars orbit, as ordered. They appear to be standard human defensive ships, minimal weapons, conventional drives. Zalex made a sound that translated roughly as satisfaction. They understand their position, then. Good. Prepare to establish orbit around Ganymede. The inspection teams will deploy immediately. Commander, the sensor officer interrupted, her voice betraying confusion. I'm detecting unusual energy fluctuations from Ganymede's surface. Specify. Unknown pattern, sir. It doesn't match any registered technology. Zalex felt a twinge of unease. Show me. The display revealed pulsing energy signatures deep beneath Ganymede's icy crust. As they watched, the signatures intensified and began to move. Sir, the tactical officer's voice rose in alarm. Multiple objects emerging from Ganymede's surface. The icy crust of Jupiter's largest moon fractured as massive structures rose from hidden bases beneath. Not the crude human vessels the Ardeni were familiar with, but sleek warships unlike anything in their recognition databases. Impossible, Zalex whispered. They can't have built these, not without us knowing. Sir, we're being hailed. On the communication screen appeared a human female in an unfamiliar uniform. Admiral Elena Reyes gazed calmly at the Ardeni commander. This is Admiral Reyes of the Earth Defense Force. Your presence in the Jupiter system is unwelcome, as are your actions against our Europa colony. You will withdraw immediately or face the consequences. Zalex recovered from his initial shock, outrage replacing surprise. You dare threaten a Federation fleet? Your primitive vessels are no match for even one of our warships. And these deceptions you've created cannot possibly function as actual military craft. A common misconception about humans, Reyes replied evenly, is that we accept limitations imposed by others. You classified us, restricted us, and expected us to stay in our assigned place for thousands of years. Her expression hardened. We rejected that future. You have violated the terms of your Federation membership, Zalex stated coldly. The consequences will be severe. All human colonies will be placed under direct Federation control until your species learns proper compliance. No, Reyes said simply. That's not going to happen. Before Zalex could respond, his tactical officer shouted in alarm. Commander, additional human vessels detected, emerging from Saturn's rings, from the asteroid belt, from Earth's moon. Throughout the solar system, humanity's hidden fleet revealed itself. Ships that had been concealed in asteroid hollows, beneath planetary surfaces, within gas-giant atmospheres, all suddenly appearing on Ardeni sensors. On the bridge of the flagship Phoenix, Admiral Reyes issued the order that humanity had been preparing for 3 years. All vessels, defensive formation Alpha. Protect our colonies. Commander Santiago, you have permission to liberate Europa. The Phoenix itself was a marvel of engineering, 3 times larger than the biggest Ardeni warship, with gleaming hull sections that seemed to absorb rather than reflect light. It moved with impossible grace for its size, positioning itself between the Ardeni fleet and Ganymede. Aboard the Ardeni command ship, chaos erupted as sensors detected more human vessels appearing throughout the system. The tactical officer's voice was strained with disbelief. 112 warships detected, Commander. Their technology. It's not Category 4. Some of these readings suggest Category 1 or even beyond. Impossible, Zalex repeated, but with less conviction. Hail the Federation Council. We need reinforcements. Communications are being blocked, the officer replied. They're using some kind of quantum interference field. On the main view screen, Admiral Reyes still waited calmly. Your reinforcements won't arrive in time, Commander. And to be perfectly clear, we don't want war with the Federation. We simply want recognition of our sovereignty and the removal of artificial restrictions on our development. Zalex's mandibles clicked in agitation. You cannot dictate terms to the Federation. Watch us, Reyes replied, and cut the transmission. Near Europa, the liberation began. 3 human warships approached the moon where Federation peacekeepers had been rounding up colonists. The Ardeni vessels in orbit fired warning shots, expecting the human ships to retreat. Instead, the human vessels simply absorbed the energy weapons without visible damage. Then, with surgical precision, they disabled the Ardani ship's propulsion and weapons systems without destroying the vessels themselves. Commander Santiago of the EDF Challenger led the ground team that retook the colony. They wore powered armor that made the Federation troops' weapons ineffective, and carried non-lethal devices that incapacitated rather than killed. "We're not here for vengeance," Santiago told her troops as they prepared to land. "We're here to show them who we really are." Within an hour, the Europa colony was back under human control, with Federation forces contained and disarmed. Not a single life, human or alien, had been lost. Back at Jupiter, Admiral Rice watched as the Ardani commander struggled with his rapidly deteriorating position. His 6 warships now faced over 30 human vessels, with more arriving by the minute. "Your situation is untenable, Commander," Rice said when communications reopened, "but I'm offering you an honorable resolution. You and your ships may leave our system unharmed. Take a message to your Federation Council. Humanity rejects its Category 4 classification and all restrictions placed upon us. We are reclaiming our right to develop and explore at our own pace." "The Council will never accept this," Zelex replied, but his posture showed his recognition of defeat. "They will send a full battle fleet." "Perhaps," Rice acknowledged. "But before they make that decision, they should see this." She transmitted a data package to the Ardani vessel. Technical specifications of just a fraction of the technologies humanity had developed in secret. The quantum fold drive that made their ships faster and more maneuverable than anything in the Federation. The Excalibur weapons system that could alter localized physics. Defense shields based on principles the Federation had never explored. As a demonstration, Rice continued, "Please observe the Galileo crater on Jupiter's moon Callisto." At her command, a single human vessel positioned itself near the uninhabited moon. It fired a concentrated beam at a specific point on the surface. Instead of an explosion, there was a momentary distortion of space, and when it cleared, a 20-kilometer crater had simply ceased to exist, replaced by smooth terrain. "We call it reality editing," Rice explained calmly. "Changing the physical state of matter by temporarily altering the laws of physics in a contained area. In this case, we essentially told that section of the moon to forget it had a crater. We can do the same with ships, stations, or even larger structures if necessary." The Ardani commander's silence spoke volumes. "We don't want war," Rice reiterated, "but we will not accept the future you planned for us. Take our message to your council. Humanity is claiming its place among the stars, not as a Category 4 species, but as equals." After a long moment, Commander Zelex responded, "I will convey your position to the council." His ship began to turn away, followed by the rest of the Ardani fleet. As they departed, Rice sent one final message. "Commander, when you report to your superiors, make sure they understand something fundamental about humans. We don't develop linearly like most Federation species. We adapt, we innovate, we make exponential leaps. Your mistake wasn't in underestimating our current capabilities. It was in failing to recognize our potential." 3 months later, Admiral Rice stood in the new Federation Council chamber on neutral territory, a space station at the edge of human space. Beside her stood representatives from 27 Federation species, including several who had been trapped in lower categories for centuries. The Ardani High Counselor, visibly uncomfortable with the new arrangement, formally announced the Federation's recognition of humanity's sovereign status and the abolishment of the restrictive category system. The Federation acknowledges that different species develop at different rates and in different ways. The Counselor stated, "The era of mandated technological restriction is ended." As the proceedings concluded, the Nevaran representative approached Rice privately. "You did what we could not," the alien said through its translator. "For 2,000 years, my people chafed under their restrictions, making incremental progress, playing by their rules. We've never been good at playing by other people's rules," Rise replied with a small smile. But we're learning to be better at making new ones together. Back on Earth, Dr. Chen stood with General Williams, watching the construction of the new unified fleet headquarters. Beyond Earth's atmosphere, human ships now patrolled openly alongside vessels from allied species, former lower-category races who had quickly formed partnerships with humanity. There are rumors, Williams said quietly, that some of the outer systems are requesting Earth's protection against Ardani influence. They want us to extend our defense perimeter. Chen raised an eyebrow. From restricted species to galactic protector in less than 4 years. That might be a new record. The Ardani never understood us, Williams replied. They saw our history of conflict and division as weakness. They didn't realize those struggles forged our resilience. They know now, Chen said, looking up at the stars becoming visible in the evening sky. The galaxy was simply not ready for humanity. Above them, a Phoenix-class vessel caught the last rays of the setting sun as it prepared to depart on a mission of exploration. Humanity's first official expedition beyond their solar system. Not as Category 4 observers, but as equal partners in a changing galaxy, with technological wonders the Federation had never dreamed possible. The storm had been unveiled, and the galaxy would never be the same.